Stop sending me your heroes like they're evidence. My favorite person will destroy you. Fam, debate hype isn't data. If your champion is right, their argument should stand without the cape. Today, we retire the favorite person fallacy and bring back something radical: receipts over reputations. Crowds cheer, but labs measure. One decides who's popular, the other decides what's true. If your argument can't cross that gap without a famous chaperone, we've got a problem. Let's fix it. Because a name drop is not a mic drop. Around here, we're building a culture where claims earn their keep. Lately, I've seen the same shortcut in my comments from believers and non believers: the favorite person fallacy. That's when you swap who said it for why it's true. Instead of giving a claim and the evidence, folks toss me a name. They've got a PhD. They debated X and won. They were published in Y. Most of the field agrees. Translation: vibes, not verification. Now, I'm not anti expert. Respect the grind, respect the training, but credentials are a starting line, not a finish line. Venues can be rigorous, debates can be useful, consensus can be informative, but none of that is the proof. Proof lives in the work, the observation, the method, the result, and the reasoning that gets you from numbers to meaning. And when I read, "My favorite person will destroy you," I picture a 12-year-old sprinting home for Dragon Ball Z and WWE who hasn't yet learned that script and spectacle aren't the same as science. That's cute after school, but it's a problem in adult conversations about reality. So here's our house rule. Let's say it together: receipts over reputations. Every serious claim must walk through 5 doors. Number one, claim, clear and testable. Number two, method. How would you know? Number three, evidence. What was observed or measured? Number four, reasoning. Why those observations support the claim. And number five, uncertainty. What would change your mind? If you can't do 1 through 5 without name dropping, you're not making a case, you're renting someone else's certainty. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down the 6 most common favorite person moves and why they fail. And I'm going to show you how to answer each one politely or spicy. Your choice. All right, let's start with the loudest one: hype as argument. Let's talk about why "he'll destroy you" is not a result section. I get it all the time. My favorite person will destroy you. Cool story. But we're not trading Pokemon cards, and I'm not stepping into the WWE. We're talking about what's true and how we know. A debate is stagecraft: speed, charisma, confidence, and memory for quips. Evidence is fieldcraft: observation, method, analysis, replication. One rewards applause, the other survives audits. So when somebody throws a clip at me like a grenade, I'm not impressed by the boom. I'm looking for the shrapnel that proves something actually happened. I get why hype feels persuasive. Confidence looks like competence. Speed feels like intelligence. A room that laughs with you can trick your gut into thinking it just agreed with your argument. But applause is not a p-value. A mic drop is not a measurement. If your champion is right, the proof won't be in the swagger. It'll be in the part that can walk out of that room and still be standing when a stranger reruns it on Tuesday. Here's how I transformed "he'll destroy you" into grown folk talk. Say the claim in a sentence. Tell me how we know if it were true or false. Show me what you observed or measured, and walk me from those observations to the meaning. No skipping steps, no magic words. And before you leave me, tell me what could change your mind. That's it. No capes required. If you can't do that without saying somebody's name, you don't have an argument. You have an attraction. You're a fan, not a fact checker. So picture 2 rooms. Room A is a roaring auditorium where someone destroys an opponent. Room B is a quiet lab where someone repeats the test and gets the same result. Room A decides who's popular. Room B decides what's real. I'm not building my life on Room A. And if you care about the truth more than teens, neither should you. So let's make this concrete. Someone posts, "Last night X destroyed evolution." Okay, what did they destroy? Common ancestry? The mechanisms of selection? The population genetics that predicts allele frequencies across time? What did they test? What data did they put on the table? Fossil sequences with dated strata, genomes with shared errors sitting in the same places like typos carried through a family line. Experimental evolution, where bacteria swap diets and mutate in public right there in the petri dish. And if they did show something, how does that observation knock down the current model instead of just beating a cartoon of it? If the follow up is just watch the debate, we're done. That's a movie, not a map. I know the temptation to outsource. It feels efficient. Why learn the guts of an argument when you can just forward a face? But your favorite person can't carry your burden of proof for you. Their resume doesn't get you past the door. Their debate trophy isn't a passport. If they really help you see, then you should be able to show me what you saw without them standing next to you flexing. So the next time someone tries to pull you into the arena with he'll destroy you, don't lace up gloves. Slow the conversation down. Cool. What's the actual claim? How would we check it? What did they measure? How do those measurements point to the conclusion instead of the obvious alternatives? And what would make you change your mind? Watch what happens. If they've got substance, the room gets calm and the links show up. If they don't, the volume rises and the nouns get bigger. You will hear more names, more venues, more victory laps, everything but the part that proves anything. Bottom line, if a claim needs a champion to feel strong, it's weak. If it has evidence, the champion is optional. I'll listen to anyone, but I'll only follow the work. And if that stings your favorite person pride, good. It means we're getting closer to an actual argument. Now, since crowds keep showing up in these conversations, let's talk about the next shortcut people love to throw at truth. Everyone agrees. Popularity still isn't probability. This fallacy shows up most as the majority of X agrees with them. Everyone agrees. That's cute. Crowds are great for concerts and parades. They're terrible as microscopes. A head count tells you who's persuaded, not who's correct. Popularity is a vibe check, not a verification step. If a claim needs a chorus to sound true, that's marketing. Turn the music down and see if it still stands. There are two kinds of majorities people throw at you. The first is the public friends, feeds, folks at work. That crowd runs on stories, status, and speed. The second is working experts. That crowd argues with measurements, methods, and the scars of being wrong in print. Now, both can be wrong, but only one has a built in way to fix itself. But even when experts largely agree, the consensus isn't the proof. It's a signpost pointing to the work that convinced them. Proof lives in the work. Here's what consensus actually means when it's healthy. It means that a lot of independent lines of evidence started pointing in the same direction and rival explanations kept losing oxygen. People test the claim 12 different ways, different labs, different methods, different data sets, even different people, and the signal survives the swaps. That convergence is called consilience. It doesn't make something magically true, it makes it harder to be false. Big difference. So when someone says most of X agrees, I'm not mad at that. I'm asking, great, what did they measure and how did they rule out the next best explanation? If you can't name even one study, one data set, one result that moved you, then everyone agrees was just a blanket you pulled over an empty bed. We've seen this movie before. For years, medicine blamed ulcers on stress and spicy food until a couple of stubborn folks put bacteria on the table, and the table didn't move. Consensus shifted the only way it should, after evidence boxed it in. Same with plate tectonics. People laughed at it, then mapped it. The crowd changed its mind because the ground under their feet literally wasn't where it used to be. That's how it should work. Not because a million hands went up, but because the rocks refused to lie. And look, consensus can also get captured by fashion. Fields are human. That's why we don't stop at most experts say. We still ask for the receipts. What was the observation? What was the method? What were the results? How does that beat the nearest rival on the same data? If your answer is just they all agree, you're giving me a scoreboard without a game. If you want to use consensus responsibly, use it like a map to the library, not as the library itself. You can say things like, most researchers in this area agree because of these longitudinal studies and this meta analysis that controlled for X and still found Y. Now we're cooking. Now we've got something I can read, test, and if needed, challenge or change my mind. But look how many on its own is junk calories. It fills you up without feeding your mind. This is one of the many reasons I cut soda out of my diet. And for the folks who like the bravado, like me, the majority of people believe bullshit. Sometimes, yes, this is absolutely true. That's why we build standards that don't care how many hands are up. If a claim is strong, it can walk into an empty room and still be true. If a claim is weak, you can fit a stadium around it and it'll still wobble once the music stops. So the next time everyone agrees shows up in your mentions, slow it down. Which part do they agree on exactly? What measurement convinced you? Show me one study you think is representative and tell me, in plain language, what it did, what it found, and why that result points here and not there. Watch how fast the conversation shifts from counting heads to showing work. And if it can't make that shift, you weren't being handed truth, you were being handed a team jersey. Bottom line, consensus can be a useful clue, but never the final answer. It tells you where to look, not what to see. Bring me the reasons the experts landed there, not just the fact that they landed. If the evidence is real, we won't need the crowd to carry it. We've dealt with the parade. Next up is the diploma on the wall. They have a degree sounds impressive until you ask it to do the job that evidence was hired to do. So it starts like this. My favorite person has a degree in X. Congratulations are in order. A diploma tells me they finished a marathon. It doesn't tell me where they're trying to run me. Credentials are a map of training, not a measurement of truth. A PhD can mean years of mastering methods, learning how to be wrong in public, and fixing it. Respect that. But the moment a degree is used as a shortcut for proof, the conversation slides from here's what we found to trust me, I was there. That's not an argument, that's valet parking for ideas. Here's the honest use of expertise. It raises the chance that the person can frame the question well, pick the right tools, and avoid rookie mistakes. It does not and cannot decide the answer in advance. The answer still lives in the work, the observation, the method, the result, and the reasoning that carries you from numbers to meaning. If a claim can't step out from behind the diploma and walk on its own legs, the degree is just a costume. Think about medicine. If a surgeon flashes their credentials and says, trust me, you nod because the training does matter. But when they recommend cutting, you still want the scans, the labs, the risks, the alternatives, the proof. You don't schedule the surgery because their wall looks fancy. You schedule it because the evidence and reasoning say that this might be the best path compared to every other path on the table. The resume does not equal the result. This is where credentialism becomes a trap. They have a degree in X is often thrown like a blessing, as if the conversation is over. But a degree can coexist with bias, with overreach, with brilliant confidence riding on bad data. Experts disagree all the time. The way we sort that out is not by counting diplomas on the wall, but by comparing arguments. Put their case on the counter. What did they measure? How did they rule out the nearest rival explanation? What would change their mind? If a fan can't answer those without pointing at the wall, they don't have the case. They just have the cape. You'll also see degree drift. Someone trained in one lane sprinting across five others because the audience likes how the voice sounds. A physicist doing metaphysics like it's the same thing. A psychologist diagnosing civilizations. A pastor doing epidemiology from the pulpit. Expertise is local. The closer they are to their training, the more weight we give their method. The farther they roam, the more we ask for receipts. Let me make it plain. If your favorite scholar helped you, I want to hear that. Tell me what they showed you. Don't hand me their name, hand me the part you now understand. They changed my mind because they compared hypothesis A and B, predicted C, and when we tested it, C showed up and B couldn't explain it. That's how expertise earns trust, not by leaning on the title, but by teaching the terrain so well that you can walk it without them. A quick story shape you can borrow when someone tosses a degree at you like a mic drop is respect to their training. Now, what did they do? That slows the room. It invites specifics. It moves the conversation from the wall to the work. If the response is a link with a clear summary, method, result, inference, you've got something you can evaluate. If the response is louder titles and bigger institutions, you're being asked for faith, not understanding. None of this is anti intellectual. It's the opposite. It's honoring what real scholarship is for, not to end discussion with a credential, but to elevate discussion with clarity. The best experts don't hide behind authority. They open the hood and let you see the engine. They can explain their argument to a curious layperson without magic words. They can tell you where it could break. They can welcome a fair test that might prove them wrong. That's what makes them trustworthy, not the ceremony where someone handed them a piece of paper. Bottom line, credentials are a starting line, never a finish line. I'll shake the hand that did the work and then I'll ask to see the work. If your favorite person is truly right, you won't need their letters to convince me. You'll be able to make their case in your own words. All right, we've stepped past the diploma on the wall. Next up is the stamp on the cover. They were published in X. Venue sounds impressive until we open the pages and ask what exactly was shown. So a person says, my favorite person was published in X. That's a nice stamp. But venue is packaging, not proof, my friends. A journal tells you where an argument lives. It doesn't tell you whether the plumbing works. Published where is step zero. Step one, what's inside? Peer review is a bouncer at the door, not the judge of truth. Good bouncers keep out obvious nonsense, but they also let in the occasional smooth talker. Even elite journals print papers that don't survive daylight, and humble venues sometimes carry gems that change the field. The masthead can't carry the claim across the finish line. The methods have to. So if you want publication to matter, open the article and make it speak. What did they actually do? Not the headline, the procedure. What changed compared to the best prior work? Not the hype, the delta. What was measured? How was it measured? And what result landed on the page? Then the crucial move. Show how that result beats the nearest rival explanation on the same data. If the argument only feels strong while the journal logo is visible, it isn't an argument, it's an advertisement. You know the pattern. Someone flexes a venue and assumes the conversation is over. Well, it's in such and such journal. Cool. Let's pretend the cover fell off. Can you still explain the claim in 3 sentences a curious stranger could follow? Here's what we asked. Here's how we checked. Here's what we found. Here's why that favors this conclusion over that one. And here's why we might be wrong. If that summary doesn't exist, you're citing a hoodie, not a result. And because we're honest, publication status comes in flavors. Preprints are speed, useful, unfinished, uneven. Paywalled papers can look authoritative while hiding flimsy methods behind prestige fonts. Predatory journals do exist. So do review articles that only look comprehensive until you notice the missing counter evidence. None of this means don't trust anything. It means the same rule everywhere. Trust the work, not the wardrobe. If you want a quick sniff test when a paper gets waved around like a trophy, try this without turning it into homework. Ask what the main figure or table shows in plain language. Ask what would have counted against the author's conclusion and whether that showed up. Ask whether anyone independent has reproduced the effect or at least rerun the analysis on a different data set and landed in the same neighborhood. If the answers are all citations to the venue instead of windows into the work, the power is out behind those walls. Bottom line, venue can be a helpful clue and a useful filter, but it's never the evidence itself. Bring me the figure, not the font. Bring me the method, not the masthead. If your favorite person is truly standing on solid ground, they won't need the building to hold them up. Since we're talking about performance and packaging, let's walk into the arena everyone loves to mistake for a lab. They debated X. My favorite person debated X. That's dope. A debate, though, is a stage, not a lab. You can win a stage with timing, poise, and a killer closer. You only win reality when the claim walks out of the room and survives being checked by strangers. Here's what a debate really measures: who the audience liked more in that hour. That's it. Judges don't hand out p values. The crowd can be wrong and loud at the same time. A sharp line can make a weak point look strong for 30 seconds. A quiet data set can flatten a loud man for 30 years. That's why I don't ask who won. I ask what survived. If the best evidence for your position is a clip, strip the music off of it. What did your person actually claim? How specifically would we know it's true or false? What did they put on the table that wasn't there before? An observation, a result, a pattern that undercuts the rival explanation? And when the lights went down, did anyone who doesn't cheer for your team rerun the numbers and land in the same place? If nothing remains but applause, you watch theater. Good theater, maybe, but not proof. Debates reward velocity. Flood the zone with 10 half claims, and your opponent can only answer 3 before the buzzer. The audience hears silence on the other 7 and mistakes it for surrender. That's not truth, that's clock management. Debates also reward confidence. The wrong answer, in a deep voice, still gets a nod if it arrives clean and fast. Meanwhile, real answers often include the parts people hate to hear: margins of error, boundary conditions, places the model could break. On a stage, humility sounds like weakness. In a lab, it's the only way you make progress. So when someone tells me he crushed that debate, I translate it into adult language. What precisely was crushed? Did he identify the still version of the opposing claim and show a result that it cannot explain without bending into pretzels? Did he offer a test his own view could fail? Did anything in the next week, fact checks, replications, even hostile analysts, confirm the substance once the adrenaline drained? Picture two moments with the same claim. Friday night, a hall erupts because someone delivered the line perfectly. Monday morning, a grad student with no stake in your hero reruns the analysis and gets the same effect from different data. The first moment is exciting. The second moment is evidence. If you can only point me to Friday and you've got nothing for Monday, I'm not moving. So bring me debate if it helps you point to the substance. Tell me the claim in a sentence. Tell me the finding that landed. Tell me why that finding prefers your view over the nearest rival, not a cartoon of it. If you can do that, the clip is a useful trailer. If you can't, the clip is just a costume change. Bottom line, a debate can introduce you to an argument. It cannot be the argument. If your case is real, it will live after the mic goes cold. If it dies when the crowd goes home, then it was never more than a show. Now let's deal with the cousin to debate theater. When people don't even bring the study, just the sentence about the study. My favorite person said the evidence says X. That's not evidence. That's a rumor wearing a lab coat. If you want me to follow you, don't wave at the mountain from the parking lot. Put your boots on and show me the trail. Hearsay about evidence is how bad ideas stay warm. Someone's favorite person gestures at a study, a crowd repeats the gesture, and by the time it reaches you, the claim has been laundered 3 times and shrunk to a meme. The chain of custody is broken. In a courtroom, that contaminates a sample. In a conversation, it contaminates your certainty. Here's how we keep our hands clean without turning this into homework. Ask for the primary source, not the personality. If there's a paper, open it. If it's paywalled, ask for the author's summary or preprint. Then translate it out loud in plain language. What was the question? What did they actually do? What landed on the page? And why does that land in this conclusion instead of the nearest rival? If the person can't do that, they didn't bring evidence, they brought ambience. Watch for the telephone game. Studies show, okay, which ones? Experts say, which expert? Saying what, to whom, and when. The data proves which data, collected how, and analyzed with what. Precision isn't pedantry. It's how you keep yourself from getting played. A good claim survives specificity. And be alert to citation cosplay. That's when someone drops a link like a smoke bomb, hoping you won't step through it. You click it, and it's a blog quoting a thread, quoting a conference talk that never made it past peer review. Or the study is real, but the effect size is tiny, the confidence intervals are wide, and the conclusion section is doing push ups the results don't support. Hearsay thrives on headlines. Truth lives in the tables. So the next time someone tosses the evidence says X, slow the room. Beautiful. Now walk me through it. One sentence for the question, one for what they did, one for what they found, one for why that beats the best alternative, and one honest sentence about where it could break. If that story can't be told, there is no evidence in play. Just a rumor with good posture. Bottom line, don't tell me about the map, show me the terrain. We honor evidence by touching it, not by name dropping it. And once you start touching it, you'll notice the patterns we've been exposing. All these shortcuts, hype, crowds, diplomas, venues, debates, hearsay, appeal to everything except demonstrated understanding, which is why, before we go any further, we're going to pin the standard to the wall and leave it there. Receipts over reputations. Here's how we talk when we mean business. Start with a claim you can say in one clean sentence, something that could be true or false in the world, not a vibe. Then tell me how we know, the way you check, the kind of observation that would raise or lower the odds. Now show me what you actually saw or measured, not the headline, the thing that landed on the page. After that, connect the dots without magic words. Walk me from those observations to the meaning and show me why this reading beats the nearest rival on the same facts. And before you pass the mic, admit where it could break. What would change your mind if it showed up tomorrow? Do it in plain language. Here's what I'm claiming. Here's how I check. Here's what we found. Here's why that points here instead of there. And here's what would make me step back. No capes, no crowds, no diplomas, just the work, my friend. When you talk like that, two things happen. First, the conversation slows down to the speed of thinking. Second, you stop renting certainty from your favorite person and start owning your own understanding. If the claim is strong, it won't need a famous bodyguard. It will stand in an empty room and still be true. This is the house rule from here on out. Any claim that can pass through those doors earns attention. Anything that can't is just asking you to clap on command. And if you start expecting this from me and from yourself, you'll feel the temperature change. Less heat, more light. Now hold that standard in your head as we move, because once you do, the next point snaps into focus. One solid result beats a stadium of opinions. Let's land this. We've peeled off hype, crowds, diplomas, venues, debates, and hearsay. And we pinned a simple rule to the wall: receipts over reputations. Not because experts don't matter or debates can't teach, but because none of that is the proof. Proof is the part that still stands when the crowd goes home and a stranger reruns the work on a Tuesday. Here's your move now. Take a claim you care about, yours or mine, and say it clean in one sentence. Tell me how we know, point to what was actually observed, walk me in plain language from those observations to the meaning, and admit where it could break. If you can do that, you own your understanding. If you can't, that's not failure, it's the beginning of thinking. Curiosity beats certainty cosplay every day of the week. I don't care who can destroy whom. I care what's true and how we know. Show me the terrain, not just the map. And if your favorite person really helped you see, you won't need their name to make the case. Einstein once faced a book titled 100 Authors Against Einstein. His reply, one of the most cold-blooded things I've ever heard. If I was wrong, one would have been enough. Same energy here. If your favorite person is correct, their argument should carry without the name tag. Bring me the work, not the worship. Receipts over reputation. See you in the lab. Wow. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Quick question for you. Can you remember any time that you've ever leaned into a favorite person fallacy? If you can, consider sharing it in the comments as a way of encouraging someone else and understanding that we've all made these slippery slopes before, but we can get better together. If you enjoy the work that I do on this channel, consider becoming a patron, a YouTube member, or supporting through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or by becoming a window shopper. And if you're one of the millions of people out there who's ready to move from online to real-time community, make sure you hit that tap in link in the description so you can actually get connected with the real-time work we're building right now. As a matter of fact, I'll be traveling to Southern California in October, in San Diego and Los Angeles, to spend nearly an entire week with our local team there building what will likely be our first official Bridge City local campus. If you are as excited about this as I am, tap in. And last but not least, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video and share this with a friend. We are building a community. We are building a movement. Hell, we're building an entirely new category. I hope y'all are ready for this. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep rising.